Hello and welcome to Media Lit, where we treat each piece of media like great literature. I'm your host, Randy Elaine, and joining me, as always, is the wonderful and the worldly Kris Ingersoll. Kris, you're a worldly fellow, but it looks like you might finally be back home. Is that true?
Oh, brother, I'm so happy to be here tonight because I am back home, as you can see, back in the pod cave with the bat signal behind me, and thrilled to be sitting with you for any kind of a conversation. Specifically tonight, it's a music conversation, and I'm thrilled to be here. How are you?
I'm doing really well. We've got a brand new guest, a brand new podling to welcome into the fold tonight. And he picked a really fun property for us that I've not really thought about in quite a while. And that's exactly the kind of fodder that we love for an episode of Media Lit. So it's not something brand new to me, but it was something that I'm really excited to look at with some fresh eyes. How was your experience?
Oh, I mean, absolutely the same, right? I love something that brings me back, that nostalgia vibe, and this took me back to such a potent time of development in my life,
Hmm.
and so I'm excited to get into the album. It was a fresh look that honestly undermined everything I thought I knew about the album, so excited to chat.
Absolutely. Before we dive deeper into this secret album, it's even more important that we introduce the man who brought it to us and pitched the idea. And this is a very special new guest. This is Kelvin Kately, manager of the Datfeelin Podcast Network, DFPN. He has been in the podcasting world for ages. He covers wrestling, music, everything under the sun. I believe he's even a bit of a musician himself. And he was kind enough to block out some time to come and hang with us and talk about some really great music. Kelvin, how you doing tonight? And I would love it if you'd tell us a little bit about what you chose tonight, and I'd also love it if you want to tell us about your podcast network because I think our listeners would probably love to hear that.
Absolutely, man. First of all, thank you guys for having me on. I'm a big fan of the show. And when you approached me about doing the episode, I was really just shooting the dart out, just seeing like, hey, this is what I think is one of my favorite albums and probably one of the greatest albums ever written. And you were okay with that. And I was like, yes. So these types of shows are fun to me to do. So yeah, I am a musician. I do that now in my spare time.
Hmm.
It was my main thing that I was doing, but I now do that in my spare time when I have spare time. Other than that, I am the manager of the Datfeelin Podcast Network. We have so many great podcasts on this network that you covered. We talked about pretty much everything under the sun. We have comedy, we have serious social interaction, we have comic books, we have nerdum, we have anime, we have movies, we have horror, whatever genre, wrestling, whatever you're looking for, we have it over on the network. And my team has been so phenomenal. And I feel like we've really started getting a groove going the last couple of years, and it's been so much fun just to be in that realm. And it's brought me places like here where I interact with people and I get to exchange ideas, and it's just fun. So shout out to everybody at the Datfeelin Podcast Network. I couldn't do any of it without them. It takes a village for a project that big, and I feel like we do have a very phenomenal team. So I would be remiss if I didn't shout them out. Thank you guys. But yeah, the album I've chose tonight is, like Kris said, this was at peak me. This is me
Mm.
entering my adult phase, and it is a very important album to me, not only as a person, but as a musician. And that is 2003's The Love Below, which is part of a
Mm.
double album, Speaker Box Love Below from OutKast, but the solo effort from Andre 3000. So yes, I'm ready to talk about it.
Hell yeah.
So excited when Randy shared this homework assignment with me. I mean, this is the first time in my life I've ever liked homework doing this podcast with this dear teacher, Randy, but this assignment in particular, I was absolutely thrilled to take on, doing it with pleasure, unlike any other homework assignment before. So this album dropped back in what, 2003.
Yes.
I'm a kid in high school. both members of OutKast were looking to do some solo work. Um, as we all know, the industry manages things pretty tightly, and that was advised as something unwise, right? And so they were encouraged to put it together, release it as this double album that just like blew the doors off of music and genre at the time. Um, it was absolutely representative of music then, of what music could be, of this cross genre thing that was happening. It won album of the year. It won rap album of the year together with Speakerbox at the 2004 Grammy Awards. I mean, this album was a big, big deal. I'm sorry to say it wasn't as big a deal in my personal life then. I remember the hits, and that's what I mean by saying this experience totally undermined what I thought I knew about the album. I was
Mm.
so blown away by what this album had to say when I listened to it again. So thank you again for the homework assignment.
No problem. This was fun.
Well, this is Media Lit after all, and the most important part of this podcast is when we have a new guest on, they've picked out something they really love, and we get to talk to them a little bit about why this is such an important property to them. Sometimes Kris and I will chime in, and I have a few memories from back in 2003, 2004. I'm gonna sneak my thoughts in a later segment so that we can really focus on Kelvin right now. But Kelvin, jumping into our personal connection section, this album, it hit in 2003. It made a huge impact on you. It showed you some new things that music could do. But I was curious, like, what did your musical landscape look like prior to this album?
That's a very good question, and my musical upbringing, I credit 100% to my brother, my older brother.
Hmm.
He's older than me by 13 years, so he was on a lot of things that normally I wouldn't be exposed to, plus the fact that he lived in Minneapolis and he was around artists like Prince,
Mm,
and he had more of a cultural taste than I did, so I was well versed in other things outside of the rap genre, even though in the South, because I am from Louisiana, that the music landscape there, I was more privy to Southern music, but I was into things like Anita Baker
mhm,
and Culture Club and Sting and the Police and Prince and a bunch of other things that I would like. Luther Vandross was really big, and I was into a lot of different music. I was into Slayer at the time. And
nice.
it was a whole bunch of different things, and then around this time period, I was new to the military. So I joined the Air Force
Hmm.
in 2002, and that exposed me to other tastes in music. And other even in the rap, because I did grow up listening to more Southern rap, but I did like East Coast and West Coast artists. That wasn't uncommon to grow up in the South and like both East Coast and West Coast music.
Hmm.
So around this time is when things started gelling together and you started getting more of that music. Plus being in the military and traveling, I was a sponge for all type of stuff. And then I had started writing and really getting serious about my craft at that time. So that was my taste back then.
Uh, my goodness, what a tapestry of musical taste.
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
know. I'm
yeah,
I'm pretty sure I hear all of those influences on this album in one form or another.
yes,
yeah,
yes.
exactly right. Yeah, yeah, very, very good. Um, so you said this album dropped as you're a man of adulthood, coming into adulthood. What is an important memory you have attached to the drop of this Love Below Speakerbox double?
I remember because at that time and being in the military, at that time, I was in Florida and that was the introduction of artists like Little John and the East Side Boys,
Mhm.
and everything that he had going on. Pastor Troy was really big. So, and being at Eglin Air Force Base, we had access to a lot of those people used to come to the base to perform. So, we were really immersed in like all of this music because at that time the music scene was really booming hip hop wise. And looking for the diplomats, and this drops, and it turned everything on its head. So, I remember vividly getting this album because I was a big OutKast fan and listening to Speaker Box and like, okay, this is cool. This is a nice album. Knowing that there were going to be solo albums, like Speaker Box was a really good album for me. And then we get to The Love Below, and it was just so different. And I could see the change in expression of the people around me because we
Mm,
all knew, like, this was different. We were on a different type of ride. You have to
yeah.
cleanse your palate of everything you think you know and listen to this album. And even then, it was just like the appreciation wasn't fully there until we got deeper and deeper and we start listening to it more. But off the rip, it was just like, "Oh my goodness, this is different." It's really different.
Yeah, I think you kind of started to answer this question already, but yeah, this album was totally different. Um, are there any particular elements of it that really stand out as the things that took you from this is a different album to this is one of my favorite albums of all time?
I think really off the first listen, it's the intro. The intro
Mhm.
lets you know that this is gonna be different, and it's some say Atlanta, some say New York, some say Paris, France, but who knows? And it's like, huh. It's just and it's already like, huh, okay. I don't know where we're going, but I think I like it, and that's off the first listen. It's like I don't know, maybe I like it. I don't know if I like it, but it's not hardcore, and that's what my
Yeah.
first impression of it was. It's not hardcore, and me as somebody that's entering adulthood, like there's still that aura of invincibility there. So getting this album at that time for me was crazy.
Yeah, so well said. It is nothing else if not musically interesting. It is so
Mhm.
Right,
different. You know,
right.
it's a and we'll get into it further, but it's a kind of work of art that kind of supersedes the basic judgment of like good or bad or enjoyment versus a
Mm.
lack thereof. It's so interesting that you engage with it in a way that's kind of beyond that, I think. So tell me, this album was so interesting. How did it ultimately impact your own style, your values, maybe your musical style or otherwise?
No, it changed everything for me. It really did, because I had a certain way that I approached music, and being a hip hop artist, there was a certain way that people have their own styles, right?
Mhm.
And especially back then, the sound of hip hop was so much different than it is now. Everybody had their own style, their kind of own language, but this is the first album for me as a musician to where I can look at this and I can say, "Oh, I can push the boundaries of my expression. I
Mm.
don't have to
Mm,
sit in one pocket. I can talk about a lot of different things and I could be expressive about it a certain way." And that this album particularly hit me so profoundly that I stopped I stopped just writing, right? I approached everything to where there's a message and there's a certain way that I can express it. I don't have to be one dimensional. I can go different places. I don't have to sit in a single pocket. And I felt like the genre of hip hop as a whole, this album changed that for everyone
mm,
because it allowed everyone to see that I don't have to be pimping and sagging my pants and slinging drugs and shooting guns. I can say that I love a girl and she broke my heart. I can look at someone
Mhm.
and say that's a lady. That's what a lady is. Or,
Mm.
even going to the club, I could say she likes to go out and she likes to have fun, but I want to go home with her. But I can make it to where it's not your everyday lingo. And that's what this album did for me. It was more than just the regular way to do things. It was it was the color red in a world of black and white.
Mhm.
That's what this album was to me.
so beautifully said. The color red in a world of black and white.
Yeah.
It's a whole new way of being able to paint and express yourself. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, this album definitely blew the doors off of so many things. I had entered into my college years by the time this album came out, and like I think back to my musical tastes versus my students now as a high school teacher, and people love to go after the youths, but one way the youths of today are a little bit better than us is this is thanks to the internet and a million other things, but I think also some of the artists out there. So many of my students have such interesting and eclectic musical tastes, like, they wanna do deep dives, like, they know some classics and, it might be something their parents got them into or a sibling, but they find their own way as well, and I can't help but listen to this album and think, like, that was the start of a shift, and, like, yeah, sure, we had to have Wi-Fi get more accessible and whatnot, we had to graduate from Napster and LimeWire, but yeah, there's a bigger world of music out there. I say all this just to avoid the toughest media lit question overall.
I
Uh,
knew you were dancing around it, buddy. I knew
yeah.
you were.
Every time I introduce this question, I'd love to shout out our shared buddy Amanda Rivas because we almost broke her when I asked her this question when she came on to talk about The Crow, her favorite movie. Uh, but no, like I think one thing we believe is if you're going to have a serious conversation, we're going to take everything seriously. We've got to be able to turn a slight critical eye even to the things we love. Sometimes it's tough. It doesn't mean we're condemning the piece. We're just holding it to a high standard. So you love this album. We love this album, Kelvin. But does it have any flaws for you?
Yes, it does, and it's a flaw of Andre 3000's. It's a beautiful flaw, but a flaw
Mm,
nonetheless. And he has instances to where and I don't know if this is by design, but he doesn't say anything, and he just lets the music speak. And
mm,
I think that he's such a prolific artist that he needs to be heard from on every single song. So there's songs on this track on this album, my favorite things, right? He could have
mm,
did something phenomenal with that song, but it's nothing, you know? And I get that he's playing the music and he's letting the music speak for him, but I think he's such a prolific artist and he has so much that he can talk about that you don't need to do that. You don't need to go there, but I get it. Sometimes you just have to let the music speak for itself.
hmm Yeah, I think
That
that
comes
was
at a risk though, for me.
yeah, that was a perfect answer to that question. Because yeah, this album's all about experimentation. And when you're experimenting, you're gonna even if you're not seeing mistakes, sometimes you'll just see that potential for even more. So I love that.
Yep. That was a tough one too, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a pro answer for sure, though.
Yeah, absolutely well navigated. Um, well, thank you for taking the time to walk us through sort of this album and what it meant to you previously. I'm excited to talk about how it impacted all of us now upon this re-listen. And so it's time to get into the album as literature. So no matter how you feel about this album, whether you listen to it once or if you maybe still have it in your like really big CD thing, it was
That's
abs.
awesome, by the way.
I have to hold on. Let me just pause real quick because that's my wife's. She's far, far cooler than I am musically, and
Mm,
this is her CD case, and, that is
nice.
her CD,
The fact that it still exists is phenomenal.
and it was on hand. I told her about the recording tonight, and she pulled it out of, like, the living room entertainment center, like, it was on hand.
Kudos.
Yeah, just when I didn't think she could get any cooler, she goes and does something like that.
I say it every day, bud. Thank you. So anyways, yeah, this album was everywhere in 2003 and 2004, so, um let's talk about what memories we have of how this thing landed within the pop culture zeitgeist. I think we've talked about this a little bit thus far musically. So let's go to you, Randy. How were you thinking about this question when you saw it on the outline?
Yeah, I put this question in here for me, really, because I was expanding my musical tastes, right? Like I was just of that age where music was only so accessible for most of my life. Your identity was like very tied into like which radio station you listen to. I caught the tail end of that. For me at the time, it was like the local alternative rock. Like that was my thing. That's what I had to listen to. And I had all sorts of like bad takes and assumptions about like the pop stations and the stations that played the hits, and I thought I was too cool for that. And if you listen to Media Lit, I put that behind me a long time ago. Um, and even though I don't think about it every day, I think OutKast is one of those groups that helped push things forward. And it was absolutely this album that put them really on my radar. Like, sure, I'd heard like, Mrs. Jackson, maybe like Bombs Over Baghdad. I wasn't listening to a ton of rap or hip hop. I was like, oh yeah, those are okay. But this album came out. Those really fun videos that I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later came out.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I was going back to college, plugging my Ethernet cable into the wall, and everyone in that dorm was like open folder sharing their music. So I was like grabbing OutKast albums, grabbing classic rock, grabbing whatever, and just diving deep. However, my biggest memory, it was actually going to 2004. This is after Roses was released as a single in March 2004. I was trying to put together the timeline. This must have been Memorial Day weekend of 2004. I was back home from college. My summer job as a camp counselor hadn't started yet. And one of my many cousins that I love to talk about, shout out Rebecca, she got me just like a weekend gig, like a holiday Memorial Day sale gig, working at this shoe store that she worked at in an outlet mall. So like they'd opened up like a little extension, and like this outlet mall was just like flooded with uh there's particularly a really big Brazilian component, like just people coming in and like mass buying shoes. And I was like checking out these credit cards like on like old like paper, like
Oh yeah.
with, like, the carbon copies and
Oh yeah.
everything, and it's the
Classic.
only retail job I ever worked, but I'm pretty sure Roses was the only song that played, like, all day, every day, and I can, like, see myself back in that little shoe annex, for that one Memorial Day weekend in 2004 whenever I hear that song.
Hmm. Uh, Lovely. What a classic image of that summer job. Really brilliant. And I unfortunately worked many a retail job, and so I know the pain of that one song that
Mm.
seems to constantly be on rotation, no matter how good that song is upon a first listen. Kelvin, what about you? Do you remember how this impacted sort of pop culture as a whole when it first dropped?
Yes, and for me personally, because I was such a big OutKast fan, I had I didn't have high hopes for this album because I knew what OutKast would do, and to me personally, I was like, "This album, I know it's gonna be good. I don't think it's gonna touch Aquemini because I thought
Mm.
Aquemini was the best work that they've ever done. That is the best album that they will ever make.
Mhm.
ATLiens was another one, and they outdid that, and I was like, "There's no way they can do this again. No way." And then this album comes out, and then I think the first song that really stuck out in my mind, and everybody loved it, and I liked it, but I was like, "Dude, there's so many good songs in this album," and that's Prototype. So when
Mhm.
Prototype came out and you seen people singing that, I was like, "Dude, y'all have to check out the rest of this album." There's so many good songs on this album that I was like, "This song is good, it's not the best song on the album for me, like, y'all really need to listen to this album." So, my friends and I, we dug really deep into this album, and one of my fondest memories, my one of my friends, Dwight, was going through a breakup at this time, and and "Behold a Lady," he loved this song, so he was sitting there and he was crying, and then, like, he just picks up the phone and he calls his ex-girlfriend. He's like, "You know what? You're not a lady." And, like, everybody else just is like, "What is wrong with him?" Like, he was really heartbroken. Like, he called her just to say that and hung up the phone. And that's like
Yeah.
that's something that it never left my memory bank because it's every time I hear that song, I go back to that moment. I'm like, "I can't believe he did that." Like, every single time I hear it, I go right to that moment.
That is absolutely brilliant. I can picture the kind of memory you share with a friend that no matter when you reflect upon it, it just gives you the giggles. You can just
Yeah,
go right back to that
yeah.
moment. Man, that's great. I think for me, I'm a bit behind you all, right? So this is like end of my freshman year, the beginning of my sophomore year and into the spring of my sophomore year of high school. And so for me, music is coming at me very much in a pop culture way. Like I'm getting whatever's just being fed on the main airwaves at the time, or from my parents who had great musical taste. But so I remember this album as a part of just a larger sort of pop culture blitz that was music then. Music was different, I think, than it is now. The celebrities attached to music in that particular
Mhm.
MTV era, it was different, and so I remember this album feeling sort of larger than just a musical moment, just a great artist's next drop, and I think the music videos are a big part of that experience. Their presence within all kinds of pop culture awards, whether it be the Grammys or, the shows on MTV, things like that. This was, to your point, Randy, just sort of everywhere. And as a kid in high school, it was just like the dance floor song. I remember this at school dances and the level of hype that Hey Ya would bring. This album, like in my youthful memories, very much Hey Ya and Roses, right? That constant rotation on the main airwaves and that big, big energy for literally everybody in the room when it came on at the school dance. And so that's really where this album lived for me for so long, but such a big pop culture moment. I remember perceiving Andre 3000 then as a part of this movement of musicians who were taking advantage of the kind of fame that they were enjoying outside of just like
Mm.
pure fans of their genre of music. He'll go on to start acting after this. I think he gets the shout out on the album, right? That he's looking to start doing some acting and to expand, exploring his talents and his creativity. Um, Love Below is such a great example of that. Um, in general, genres were being smashed to pieces, I think, in the early aughts. Um, and this was such a great example of it.
Yeah. No, that's perfect, Kris.
Totally
Um,
agree.
yeah, so we've got this album, and I would not try to say that it reads like a novel or anything like that, but we definitely have a lot of storytelling happening. You could argue there are some broader arcs at play across this album, and whether or not you see that, um, this album, it's got like some somewhat simple breakup songs, but it has some much more complicated things to say about love, about relationships. So Kris, I'm going to throw this one back to you first, just because you went to me on the last question. But what stands out to you from this album is like central storylines or major themes that just kind of live with you after giving this album a fresh listen.
Yeah, I sort of was floored by what this album had to say, even songs that for me were such pop moments like Hey Ya and Roses, because I think we are dealing with like a really introspective examination of love in all its forms. It's a sort of celebration of the ubiquity of love within our lives, within us as beings, the very beautiful and often complicated, often messy ways in which we experience love and share love, the ways we seek love and give love. So I thought from the beginning of the album, there's like this declaration of intent with Happy Valentine's Day, right? All the other holidays are secondary because love is just always, it's always Valentine's Day because love is always around us, in us. And this character will go on to experience like some of the finer aspects of love, but there's a change as you get to
Mm,
Aya. I was floored to experience Heya as this like moment where the man was gonna like reject all of that mushy stuff and say, no, 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 I'm toxic. No, 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 I'm ice cold. And
hmm
he was like reverting in some significant ways, and that perpetuates through Roses. And so, yeah, man, I was really impressed by what I thought this album had to say upon a re-listen. I'm almost just embarrassed by the superficial way in which I related to it beforehand, given the depth that I discovered this time.
Yeah, I totally get that. Kelvin, how about for you? Any great moments of storytelling or any like really big thematic through lines that stand out for you?
Yeah, there's a few, and I'll go right to Love Hater because it's the second song on the album, but it says so much,
Hmm.
particularly to me. And back in those days, it's like as a single person, and he says something so crazy, but in a slick way. and he says, "You know you have company coming over, so you scrub extra hard." And
Mm.
it's like, "Oh, I clean the house. I know I have company coming over." And he's like, "Everybody needs a glass of water today to chase the hate away." And it's like, just let the love come in and let it flow and let it just have a good time. Everybody needs somebody to love before it's too late. And that sort of like set the stage for what this album was gonna be for me. And then you get to one of my favorite, absolutely, it's my I won't say it because I'll spoil it. But there's a song on there where you find one and what it means when you find the one and how terrified that makes you and what emotions that you process. And the song itself is so crazy because it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like something like out of a horror movie almost, but the message is I found the one. And like, what do I do with this? And certain themes in that is just like loving an older person and the way they gravitate towards you and what happens when you do break up, and how you think about what your ex is. Like, I hope bad things happen to you. I hope nothing but terrible things happen to you, but these are all human emotions, and the way that he was able to capture that and put it in a way that makes sense over the entirety of this album, it's phenomenally done. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all perfect. Um, all this complicated stuff that this album has to say about love. There was one moment that I put in my notes that just really jumped out to me. And it's from our girl Rosario Dawson, Ahsoka herself on
Yeah.
She Lives in My Lap. Um, but there's this line, "What's wrong? What are you afraid of? The love below?" And, what is it below? It's below, all of this posturing, all of this attitude, all of these things people are trying to project to the world, but there's some sort of realness underneath all of that. So, yeah, I think that is really central. So to see that be one of the main moments where we get the album title dropped really, really jumped out to me for sure.
Absolutely, man.
Great, great call out. Um, okay, so as we were going through this album then, and we're having these sort of thematic things pinging for us, I'm curious to hear what other stories, pop culture otherwise, were sort of top of mind. Any other music or any other texts that pinged for you, Kelvin, upon this re-listen?
From this album, man, dude, I can go I can go through track by track from each one of them, but, um, the what I went back to loving the older person is like Miss Lady. I don't care if you were born a little later than, so what? You're older than me. But that's cool. I can You teach me your ways and I'll teach you mine. I have something to offer. And it's just moments like that, like stuff what happens, but you don't really take the time to think about like, huh, maybe I can love someone older than me, and
Mhm.
it'd be perfectly okay. And people didn't talk about these things. And that's what makes this album at this time so pivotal, sorry, because people didn't talk about stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and so I think it's interesting when you find reflections of these things in other stuff, right? Randy, what was top of mind for you?
Yeah, so I mean, not to be too obvious, but I really developed this new respect for OutKast in the wake of this double album. So I was there, like, ready to go when they came out with Idlewild a few years later. I really dug that album. I especially loved like the Idlewild Blue. It's got the harmonica going there for you, Kris.
Yes, sir.
So I love that sort of blending of style, and just I love that creativity continued. They kept, find looking for new avenues. Um, I also found myself going back to our most recent music episode on Rilo Kiley, More Adventurous, which came out less than a year after this one. The main reason it was on my mind was just this Iraq War era, George W. Bush era is in there. It's baked in there, like love in war. It's a nation facing conflict head on in a way that, I don't think a lot of us were prepared for. We're still very much in the wake of like 9/11. That was such a paradigm shifting moment. So to hear all these artists so concerned with that. Sorry, I dropped out the song Alive with the Glory of Love by Say Anything on that Rilo Kiley podcast, but I was really thinking about that one during this album because in that song, it's about people hiding from the Nazis during the Nazi occupation and, you know, getting through the day by making love, hiding under the floorboards. And that
Mhm.
felt like a very Love Below moment for me. Um yeah,
Yep.
I guess that's all I'll shout out for now.
Very well tagged, that last love below note, both almost literally and metaphorically, right?
Yeah.
Um, Interesting. So, for me, I really was keying on, like, this right, the love aspect of this album, right? It's interesting you talk about love in war because I was thinking about my guy Hemingway, who I've sort of begun to hint has had a big part of my literary formation.
Mhm.
Um, Had to reexamine that from time to time, but in general, I love, um the things he's interested in exploring in his stories, and often he's interested in exploring love. I think often the best of us, no matter what kind of a story we're telling, somewhere nestled in within the human conflict, whether it be a war story or otherwise, is how do we love at a time like that? How does love manifest in this situation or in that situation? So I was thinking of Hemingway. I was thinking of Shakespeare as this album plays with genre and different ways of expressing um, the very many facets of human passion, of love, and the way we experience it. So that was very top of mind. Much more superficially and unrelated to the storytelling of this album,
Hmm.
I also could not help but think of a film that I found absolutely hilarious when it came out. I haven't rewatched it since, so I don't know how potentially problematic it might be today. Be Cool. Does this ring a bell for anybody?
Yes.
It's
Oh
like
He was
a
god.
in that movie.
Andre 3000 is in that
He was
movie,
in that
and he's
movie, yeah.
Yeah,
hilarious
yeah.
in that movie, if I can recall. Like a weird follow-up to Get Shorty many years later.
Yep,
Um, but when I think of Andre 3000 at this time evolving, kind of breaking out of his chrysalis a bit and becoming that
Hmm.
butterfly he would be creatively, and I think about acting, I always think about this movie, so it was top of mind for me listening to the album.
it's funny you say that, 'cause that's his first movie role, honestly.
Is
Yeah.
it is it his first one? Okay, I
I
wouldn't
think
have.
so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's like 2005, so it's very like, right after this album comes out. Yeah, it's on the heels of this.
All right. Well, I think those were some great connections. If any more hit you along the way, feel free to shout them out. But going into this album, I asked everybody to rank the songs on the album. I attempted to simplify the equation a little bit by trying to cut out some of the interludes that maybe aren't necessarily songs but still have a thematic impact. Um, I was told by both Kris and Kelvin that I had to keep the track "Where Are My Panties" on there, like as a song worthy of its own
That's
discussion.
awesome.
Which I understand why. There's a lot. There's a lot worth talking about there thematically. So in retrospect, I probably should have kept God on the list as well, but that was not one of the tracks that I asked people to rank. But I bring that up now because as we're going through these songs, it's 18 songs. I'm gonna try to go first to whoever ranked that song the highest. And then at least for the first several tracks, I figure if we have a lot to say, we can jump in. If there's one you want to skip or you just have like a couple quick words on, don't feel like you have to unpack every single song all the way down. But if you want to, like, go for it. And along the way, share as much or as little as you like. If there's a lyric that stands out to you that means a lot that you want to shout out, hit us with that lyric. If there's a cool element to the musical composition that's worth shouting out or an influence there. This album is full of like really cool collaborations and contribute contributions from people who would go on to like continue to have such huge careers in their own right, even outside of OutKast and Andre 3000. So there's a lot going on here. And yeah, but at the same time, feel free to dive back into themes, influences, etc. So I'm actually going to kick off the discussion. Now, I think we've established that we all really love this album, but in terms of how we ranked everything, our lowest ranked track was "A Day in the Life of Benjamin Andre." Um, I had this track the highest, but it was still, in like the bottom third or fourth of my list. It's not because it's a bad song. This is I love this kind of like autobiographical rap song. This one was solid. I don't think it specifically jumps out as the best one that anyone has ever done. But I found it interesting. I love to hear about that lifestyle. I've listened to interviews in the past about the dungeon and whatnot, and like those early OutKast days. So it was kind of cool to get that slice of life. But the thing I wanted to shout out, loving the most, there's this one line. I was on the rise, yeast was the street. And I loved that line, that like his life, his experience has got to be literally baked into him in order for him to rise up to make it to that next level. So that was my favorite lyric there. Do either of you guys have anything you want to say about this track?
I do. I think this for this song being on the and the reason I have it rated so low is
Mm,
because it was incomplete for me. I felt like he had way more pocket to go into.
mm,
And I do love the message on this track because it's him experiencing everything that he talked about before this song, but setting it up so he realizes he has a son, and the message that he needs to send his son is something other than what he's portraying for himself. Like,
mm,
I've been down this road. I need to make sure that I'm not sending these signals to my son so he
mm,
goes down the same path. I thought it was really well laid out. I just wish he had more to give on this one,
Mm,
mm.
which goes back to my flaw for the album. It's like,
yeah,
I wish you gave me more on this one, man, because it was a great song for as long as it lasted.
Totally.
yep. Really interesting that you say that. And wonderful point. I hadn't made that connection to this being sort of a summary of how his experience and now how filtered through the idea of having a son, how he passes that on. But I did note for myself that the interesting nature of this beat and how much potential it has. Now I kind of enjoyed the like spoken word nature of his cadence on this. It's a really
Hmm.
interesting delivery. He's on the beat in an interesting way throughout. But to your point, you can imagine how much more than he could have given to this beat, to this particular entry, so I feel you.
Yeah, I'm not as well versed in rap, but last August, Chris, we uh did that episode on Damn by Kendrick Lamar.
Yes.
When I think about like an autobiographical rap, it doesn't quite hit that level that we got on that album.
Yeah, well
Th
compared.
that album is a direct descendant of The Love Below.
Mhm.
The way it's
Yeah.
written, the way it's communicated. Kendrick Lamar is a student of the game, and that album is very much it derives very much from The Love Below.
No, I can totally see that. Like even in the samples, like you don't get like a full Love Below type track, but they're scattered throughout those little moments, those callbacks, and yeah, really
Absolutely.
really great stuff.
Interludes too, yeah. I would love to now have a intentionally comparative discussion, but that's for another pod, but
For sure.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, let's move on to our next track. We all had this one in our bottom third, but again, we all liked it. This was "Love in War," which we mentioned briefly earlier. Kelvin, you had this the highest out of the three of us. In fact, this was like an edit to your list. This was one that you initially had even a little bit lower, and you're like, "No, I re-listened to this one and I did not give it enough credit." So tell me a bit about "Love in War."
It's one of those and it took me back to the time you guys alluded to this earlier, in the time period that we were in, have a song like this, "Let's Kiss Not Fight." It beckoned for that in a time to where we absolutely were going to war. So, the fact that he took the time out and was very deliberate with a song like this, the groove that it had on it, I think
Mm.
that gave me enough pause to say, "Wait, I rated this way too low."
It's so funny you use the word pause because that's exactly like what I did when I came to this song on the album. To your point, really cool that he's uh, declaring himself as a lover, not a fighter, right? He is the gangster of love himself. But I noted this like musical change. I noted it was a super, super dope shift musically. As I was moving through this album, my ear just all of a sudden was like, whoa, whoa, okay. It was unexpected, but really pleasant as I moved through this track. So it's interesting you use that word pause. It's exactly what my brain did when this track came on.
Yep.
Yeah, and similarly, like, I think this might have been the track that felt like the most relevant to 2003 specifically. Not that it doesn't work now, but, like, I think about that moment where, like, I mentioned it earlier, we're, like, facing wartime, we're trying to, keep in touch with our humanity, and, like, if you look at the politics of the world today, I think one thing that everyone has in common is everyone's really just trying to, like, insulate themselves from all the realities out there. So this idea of, like, not getting caught up in war doesn't hit the same way, because it's almost more like we need to cut through all that insulation so that people can kinda, like, wake up. So, still like this song, but yeah, it didn't hit as hard for me now, for those reasons, but still, great track, great album. Next song on the list, yeah, this was the Love Below intro, and, I don't really have anything to add beyond how Kelvin captured this earlier. You hit play on this album, and there is Andre 3000, and he's crooning, right? Like, he's doing, like, almost like this lounge act, and it's really beautiful stuff. He's not trying to be hard. He's bringing you a different genre, and it tells you that you're about to step into a new experience. I couldn't say it any better. When he's listing off these different locations, it felt like maybe he was hinting at, like the OutKast mission to bring Southern rap to the forefront. It might be a little subtle message in there as well, but yeah, I love this track, and it confirms that you're in for something special.
Oh, absolutely, man. It is for me. It felt like you're listening to a play opening, and they're setting that stage, and he's sitting on the steps, he's smoking a cigarette, and it's like, welcome to the show. And you just kick off that album that way, and really was just different.
Mhm.
It felt different, it sounded different, and it says listen to differently than what you listen to other forms of music, because this is gonna be art, ultimately. This is my art, here you go.
Yeah, perfectly stated. Nothing to add. Cool tone setter, right? That's what it is. Perfect amuse bouche for the album.
Absolutely. Speaking of tone setters, and creativity, this time creativity with words. Our next track is Vibrate. Kris, I promise I will be going to you first very soon, but I'm going back to Kelvin on this one. Kelvin, of the three of us, you had this the highest. This was number 11 for you. Tell me about Vibrate.
Vibrate is also like Love and War for me, in the sense that he's calling people to come together in a moment that where we absolutely needed the unity. But he's saying, "Come together, let's love each other. We don't have to fight. We're all equal. Let's just get together, love one another. That'll be the answer to all of the problems." And that's what it's saying. Reach a higher space. Let's go higher. Let's be higher. Come together. And I really love the message in that, opposite to what Love and War was,
Mm,
because Love and War, it is the same type, just set in a different space. So, and which is why I think Vibrate kind of more timeless in a sense than Love and War, and that may have been his point,
yeah.
honestly.
For me, this really just boiled down to this, like, the sound. I noted here that it was drippy. This is like a syrupy song. I love the vibe of this. I'm glad we already mentioned Kendrick, and I'm not surprised to hear you kind of expound, Calvin, on how Andre 3000 in this album specifically was an influence, because this, for me, Vibrate sounded like
Mhm.
it belonged on To Pimp a Butterfly in a
Mhm.
really, really familiar way. That was exactly where I was transported as this beat first came in. I was like, yeah, it's like everything slows down. It's like very drippy was the only word I could think of.
If you not to cut in, but if you go and listen to Damn and play the second track,
Mhm.
this song plays like that song
Mm.
very much.
Making a note right now.
Yeah, this track is quite a journey. I'm an English teacher. I love a double entendre. I love wordplay. I love a pun. So like I think the most important part of this song is like the social message, right? It's about protecting the future, protecting the planet, uh, you know, focusing on your influence. But like it's housed in this metaphor of masturbation, which is, arguably crude, but I think kind of a clever choice because I feel like he's really going after like that pearl clutching sort of piece of society, right? Like uh religion, moralistic attitudes, like this is all in the air in 2003. He wants to push that envelope and have something positive to say. Like with all this stuff that's happening, is this really what you're going to get caught up on? Is this really what you're going to let destroy you? And that idea of like this moralizing sort of culture maybe losing sight of its priorities feels maybe even more relevant now than in 2003. So this one, like, it really hit for me on that level, and I did not remember this one from back in the day. So watching that unfold was
Mm.
really it was kind of a cool little lyrical trick to see taking place before my eyes. So yeah, cool track. All right, Kris, you get to kick us off on the next one. We are going to "She's Alive."
Okay. I in all caps wrote, "Now we're talking." I found that
Hmm.
this song was just, like, lyrically, convicting. It was musically haunting, just, like, deeply beautiful and also just deeply sad. I found this song, but it's I feel probably something that needs to be listened to, needs to be examined, right? This is a person who needs to be protected, celebrated, empowered in our society. And so, yeah, I was just moved by the musicality of this that was so haunting and the story that went with it.
Kelvin, did you have anything you wanted to add?
That is a very, very good analogy.
Hmm.
So mine's different though. And this song for me is it's that, but it's also strength. It's
Mm,
showing strength in a time to where, yes, it is sad, and she is alone, and she has to raise a boy, she has no help, and this is talking like it brought me back to me and my mom, right? Because my mom was a single mother, raised me, but she did whatever she could with what she had, and that's what this song is. It's like she is really going through it. She has no help, but she's alive. And that strength, that overwhelming strength that it takes to do that in that space, I thought was very beautiful for this song. I really did.
Yeah, I'm mostly echoing what you guys have to say on this one. But yeah, like this celebration of a single mother, and like, that's a theme that we've seen before. Our buddy Doug Leaf on Nostalgia Arcanum recently did an episode on the music of 1995. So it had me listening to Dear Mama by Tupac Shakur. But like the main refrain there is like I appreciate you, and this like really active positive she's alive, like she's this
mhm.
like full functioning human being. I think I'm just riffing on what you guys already said, but that was a really beautiful
Mhm,
sentiment.
Yeah, I've been trying to pull up the lyrics while I was speaking just because wanted to make sure I got it right. But yeah, this constant refrain, no help from him, but she's alive.
mhm.
And it's again and again repeated to emphasize, regardless, right? She is alive, made to be strong, but all alone.
Perfect, perfect. All right, let's move on to the next track. Now, this track, it was a little bit hard to place. Kelvin and I had it a lot lower on our lists. Kris had it at number 2, but I think all these numbers are kind of fluky because this track means something a little bit different than the other tracks. I almost just started with it because it might be the best way to establish this album thematically. But this is the aforementioned "Where Are My Panties?" Kris, kick us off.
I put it at number 2 only
I
because I wanted to
love
make
that you have it number 2.
I was about to joke that I only put it at number 2 to make sure we talked about it, to make sure Randy had to say, "Where are my panties?" as many times as possible on this pod, because I know avoiding saying it was the main reason for leaving it off the list. No, I found this, like, it's just so, forget my language, so fucking dope.
Mhm.
So honest, it's so real. I mean, uh, this is love positive, this is sex positive, this is such a vibe. I loved the way this served as a statement on the album that is exploring the ways in which we can be messy and perhaps we can hurt each other, we can be toxic in love, but sometimes it's just this, and it's honestly what 2 people need, and it can be complicated, and it can be beautiful, and maybe it's just this right now, maybe it's gonna be something more, and that's exciting. I think we've all been in that moment and having these same thoughts run through our heads. I was so impressed with the writing on this. Like, sometimes you come across literature that's just so perfectly honest. Like, oh, this person has lived, right? Like, this person is expressing something so human and real. I wrote down the lyric that just that just let me know that she know what she want out of life. I was like, that's honest and beautiful and perfect. And I'm grateful they're both having this moment in their heads, but it's one of those moments where you wish they could both read the other one's thought bubble. If only we could communicate so purely with each other out loud, you know?
My goodness, man, absolutely. So the honesty in that is why I like it, right? Because it's absolutely a scenario that could happen. And yes, my favorite part of that is when he's talking to himself and he's like, "I should just lay on her booty." He's like, "No, no, don't do it, Ice Cold." And you hear the voice in the back, "Ice Cold." It's like, "Do it." But it's like he's like, "Should I?" "Yeah, I should." "Nah, nah, don't do that. Don't do
It's
that."
planting the seeds for the war in himself that
Yeah,
will manifest come hey ya. Like I'm saying, this
Mhm.
was an important part of the album, this track.
yes, very much so.
No, and I'm with you guys because the track "Where Are My Panties?" See, I'm not afraid to say it, Kris. But no, this no, this track, it's about the vulnerability, right? Like you've got this womanizing sort of persona character, but this isn't about making that cool. It's about the vulnerability. In fact, as you were talking, Kris, you gave me another pop culture reference. Lost, if you can believe it. Our guy,
Not
James,
you, not us.
yeah, our guy James Sawyer Ford, when he finds the love of his life, he's, a very handsome man, very tall man. But when he is in bed with Juliet, he is the little spoon, which is a beloved band detail about Lost. And I was thinking about that vulnerability here. So,
Yes, beautiful, beautiful, love that.
oh my goodness. All right, let's move on to the next track. Kelvin, we're going back to you. You mentioned this one briefly earlier in the podcast, but Love Hater. Do you have anything new you want to say about this track?
No, other than what I said about it before, it it's a perfect track to be like, we need this. Everybody needs it. And my favorite line of that, he's like, part of my French, he's like, everybody needs to quit acting hard and shit before you get your ass whooped. And like just having that in the space of this song is like, okay, yeah, chill out, bro. Like, just chill. Cause you're trying to be something you're not, and you're probably gonna get hurt for it. But I loved it.
Yeah, I think I already agreed with you earlier, Kelvin, but another reference I could have made before was one of my favorite musicians and poets is Saul Williams. Um, he's really cool, and I was thinking about when I listened to the song, I was thinking about his track Black Stacy. Um, And I probably should have looked this up beforehand, but just to kind of paraphrase, there's like this line, "Why don't you load your guns with songs you haven't sung?" Which is a really, really great one. Uh, yeah, not everything about you could be rugged and rough is another line in that same song. So I was definitely feeling that. And I always just get a kick out of the line, "You need somebody to scratch your dandruff." Talk about like not trying to make this sound cool or sexy, just two people connecting and being imperfect together. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just love the chaotic jazz energy
Mm,
with this, with the electronic sounds mixed in, just like really, really crazy. And then that melody, you represented it beautifully, Kelvin. So I'm not even going to try.
yeah, that
But
was good.
yeah,
Thank
his vocal performance on this is so beautiful. The melody is just tremendous. Um, yeah, great statement for the album.
All right. Moving on to Prototype. Kris Ingersoll. This was actually a tie, but just to even out who got to go first, Kris, you're going to kick us off on Prototype.
Thank you. So Prototype had me before I even listened to the song, just off of the name alone, the idea, within I'm getting the story of the album at this point. I see where he's going with this, and so the idea of like the practice person, right? Like we all imagine someday we're kind of like you're out there in the dating world and you're shopping for um, that person, that right person to spend your or whatever that you picture that being, whether it's like a spouse in a house, if it's just like a companion, to travel with, whatever that looks like. We all have the relationships that like we start acting out those parts. We start living like it's or moving towards the idea. It's like a prototype girlfriend or a prototype boyfriend. And so the second I saw the name of this song on the album, that's where my mind went. And then I found maybe it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, but as I listened to it, that's what I was getting, that first love, that like real, everything about it seems like it's that thing, but it's not. It isn't really that thing yet. The real thing will come later. This is just a prototype. This is just the first version. This is the 1.0 of
Mhm.
that head over heels kind of love, that real, you think it's gonna be forever kind of love. The kind of love that you talk about too much with people, like that relationship. That was so familiar, and so I really enjoyed this. I think, like, musically, probably not my favorite to listen to, but definitely just, like, I love the concept of this
Yeah.
song. I think that's why I ranked it the way that I did. It fit the album's story really, really well. It was, like, dreamy and ephemeral. That was interesting to me, the way I
Mhm.
experienced it, but probably not, like, musically the thing that I vibed to the most.
Well said. Well said. For me, it was this is why Where Are My Panties had to be on this discussion.
Yep.
Because of what he says and also what the song is saying. Because at the end of Where Are My Panties, he's like, what if she's the one? You know, and
Mhm.
he's already asking himself this question based off the interaction that he's had with her. And he's already made up in his mind, like, that's what I want. She's everything that I want. I hope that I hope that you are the one, but if not, you've let me know that I know what I want. You know, that you are
Mhm,
exactly what I want. So if it doesn't work out for you, which he says in the song, he's like, if everything should fall apart, we can't be mad at God. Who says that? Like, we can't be mad at God. We met today for a reason. I
Mhm.
think I'm on the right path. So if you're
mhm,
not the one, then you let me know that she's out there and she has these qualities. I want her. And saying that in the middle of this album is kind of definitive because he's saying in this song too, it's like I I've been through a lot of women that had something, but I wasn't feeling anything. I am feeling something now. And maybe I should go on this path, continue on this path, continue to try to find the one because you've let me know that she exists. If anything else, because I've already asked God, Like, I just want someone who's gonna be there, who's gonna be sweet to me. Here she is. Please be one, but if not, you are the prototype.
Mm, mhm.
Um, I wasn't going to chime in here, but I haven't done my English teacher duty yet. I've been making pop culture references and not literary ones. But as I was listening to you, Kelvin, you made me realize that this entire album is about Jay Gatsby uh, from The Great Gatsby.
Wow.
My favorite thing to do as an English teacher is like make sure that my students understand that Jay Gatsby is a total creep. And like when you get his backstory, like basically you find out like he's sleeping with lots of women and then he resents them afterwards. Like he's just this like womanizing kind of jerk. When he meets Daisy Buchanan, it's a very selfish, one-sided, obsessive sort of love for him. But after they hook up, she's the first girl who's just like, she's good. And then the line is like, he was the one who was obsessed, and, like, he's never experienced it before. Now, he responds in some pretty wildly unhealthy ways, but yeah, you sent me down the Great Gatsby road, so thank you. Alright, moving on from Prototype. Next up, we've got She Lives in My Lap. Kelvin, this was your number 2?
It
Uh,
was.
yeah, tell me about this track.
Because it does follow prototype, but is
Mhm.
absolutely saying she isn't the one, you know? Because you find her, she stays in the coolest moods. Her friends are great, she's great, but she's here for all of the wrong reasons. She lives in my lap. She's just using me, and I'm figuring this out, you know? You have me, and my favorite part of this song is him submitting to that. It's just
Mhm.
like, "Ugh, whatever, just use me. I don't care." It's like, "You've got me open wide. I'm yours. Play. Just go ahead, play. I don't care." You know, I like you. You had the qualities that I want, but she's just in my lap. She does her thing and she goes, and damn, am I really experiencing my own medicine right now? It's like, that's what it feels like. Oh, okay. All right. All right, go ahead, play. Just we both know what we're here for. Do what you came to do. And that's why it's such a profound song for me.
Yeah, beautifully stated, beautifully explained. Um, all that, and after listening to this album multiple times over the course of the last week, that refrain is the thing I find myself humming to myself the most, where, like, he's just putting so much mustard on every repetition of "She lives in my lap." It
Yep.
just gets more and more intense. It's become an earworm.
I I think that's the only reason why I ultimately ranked it lower because I love that Rosario's on this, and I think I found it from a story perspective really interesting. My take's a little bit different than yours, Kelvin, but I think my ear did not enjoy this listen very much, and I was also disappointed in the story
Mhm.
turn at this point because to your point, it's coming right off of, "Where Are My Panties?" and he's in this place of openness. My experience with the character at this point is that he's feeling smothered. Like, she is cool, and he knows that she's great. He knows that she's this fantastic partner, and he's enjoying so many aspects of it, but also, "Oh god, she's here all the time. She lives in my lap. She's constantly on me," and I, like he can like, that worst part of him is, like, beginning to resist that, and by the end of the song, he affirms, like, "No, I love her, actually, and I'm scared of that. That's why I'm resisting
Mhm.
the smothering. I'm resisting all of this availability from her because I think actually this is super real," and then we jump into "Hey Ya" from here, and he's gone full on, "Nope." So I think I was disappointed in the story turn for our guy, and that's why it ranked so much lower for me.
Totally fair. Well, Chris, we don't have to live in the depths for much longer because we are going to your number 1 overall, my favorite things. Tell me about it. This hit number 1 for you.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, this song is so fucking sick. Andre 3000 doing his producer thing on this and really exploring what interests him musically. And I think outside of the really beautiful story being told in this album, like the thematic stuff we've been peeling back and exploring song by song, I keep saying how musically interesting it is. You can tell that he just wants to play in so many different spaces, that he's this this being of the world, right? He's taken in so many musical influences in his lifetime, Andre 3000, so many cultural influences, and they're kind of spilling out. And so I loved the jazz of it all here. Um, it's it's just my favorite musical experience of the whole album, and it sits so apart from the rest of it. I think it's the one that I'll end up listening to again most frequently after this. This is a cool, just like put it in the background. It's familiar to the ear, but being done in such a new way, right? Like when it first came on, oh, I know this song. I know
Mhm.
this. I know what this melody is, but the arrangement was nuts, and it kept getting more and more so. And so, yeah, just from a pure musical standpoint, I had to let it rise above the rest. Maybe I was being a little cheeky in that way, but it's such a huge swing from him. Like there's so many things he doesn't do on the song. To your point, Kelvin, maybe you want him to do more, but he just says, "No, I want to produce these musicians. I want to conduct these folks doing what they do best,
Yeah.
showcasing these incredible talents, this ability to just like play their instruments."
Yeah. Yeah, it's straight up jazz to a show tune. Um, yeah, talk about blended genres. Yeah, it's a very cool track. Um, I'd be curious to hear, like, I wouldn't want to erase this version, but I would love to hear a version with some vocals of some kind. Would be really interesting.
Yes, especially as like midway through, just something like super hard in contrast to the musical sound. If he came in and just went super, super hard on the beat, that would be pretty nuts.
Yeah, yeah. He totally coulda did that, and I think that's why I have it ranked so low is because I know that what he did with the arrangement, I know him rapping on would've been I think he would've set a precedent, and I think Andre knew this, so he just let it breathe because
Yeah, yeah.
the space and creativity that he showed just by producing it showed his range, so yeah, I wanted something on that, but I do agree with you that the way that it was arranged and done was phenomenal. It stands on this album, which is full of great stuff and content, that the fact that he says nothing on it and it still stays on this album that's saying a lot too. So I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, and he does sell it, like, you've got that little letter intro that leads into it, this sort of, like, "I can't quit you," kinda, "You're my favorite thing" kinda vibe,
Yeah.
helps
Yeah.
sell it too. Alright, moving on from my favorite things, next up, we've got Pink and Blue. Kelvin, you had this at number 5, that was the highest ranking of the 3 of us. Chris and I had it, closer to the middle. What do you love about this song?
It's him experimenting. And the fact that he has Aaliyah on here,
Mhm,
which age ain't nothing but a number, I think at that time, because we were still fresh on her passing too, I think that hit for me at that time. It's like,
mhm,
oh, that's cool. And the song that we got out of it, and just the way he goes into the way that, like, you're so sophisticated, and the way that you impart your knowledge on me and the way that you kind of take care of me. I like this. I like this. So what if you're older than me? I know people are gonna have a problem with it. That's okay. I like what I like right now. And I think that's just him experimenting not only with the message, but within that message saying it's okay for me to love someone older than me, and it's okay for someone older than me to love me. And putting that out there into the universe on itself is a very bold move. But him doing it in the space of this album really, really set this song apart for me.
Yeah, this was with each subsequent listen of the album, this was the one that I think went up the most for me each time I listened to it again, and I caught something a little bit more. Because I think the first time through, I zeroed in on kind of like the sillier, more playful elements, like dropping the Claire Huxtable reference, the "You make me talk, baby talk." But the more I listened to it and appreciated that it jumps in with this sort of soulful sort of funkiness that kind of picks up in the back half of the song when it gets a little bit sillier. It's a cool track, and when I shuffled my rankings, this was one that jumped up 4 or 5 spots from my first listen.
Yeah, same. It jumped around for me too, and I had only wanted to highlight that literalism there. Yeah, so you could have been born a little later, but I don't care. So what if your head sports a couple of gray hairs? Come on, Claire Huxtable took me out upon the first listen, and upon each subsequent re-listen. To your point, it kind of moved around a little bit. Tough one to place.
Yeah. All right. Next up is a track I was super excited for because I forgot that this collaboration existed, and it just made my day when I remembered that it was out there. But Chris, let's go to your number 4 track. This is "Take Off Your Cool."
Yeah. So I am off mute. Yeah. So I was also just so surprised by this collaboration. I think I've already admitted that I missed this album in an album type of way back then. I really just absorbed what came at me from the mainstream media waves. And so I was not at all expecting Nora Jones on this album. And then it's just musically so lovely. It's simple and easy. It's just like such a vibe in that way. We drop the facade, right? We're not trying to be anything fake now. We're just being real with this person. I felt the music suited that expression so well. The shift in what our character was trying to express was really well treated by the Nora Jones vibe. Um, I love me an acoustic guitar. This was beautiful.
Yeah, just reading up on the album. Andre 3000 really challenged all of our expectations, and it sounds like Nora Jones was no exception. Like, it sounded like she was genuinely, like, shocked and surprised to get a phone call from Andre 3000. She was totally down to do it and excited, but yeah, even she, I don't think, assumed that, he would even know who she was. Of course he would. Her first few tracks were, like, so iconic, but yeah, and like they came in and put together this beautiful thing. It's riffing on that same sort of you don't have to be hard all the time sort of
Mm,
riff, right? Like take
mhm,
off your cool, put it down. It's a slightly slower, more reflective version, because Love Hater, it's got the dissonant music popping in. It's playful, silly. It's got the dandruff line. So yeah, just to really live in that moment in a real way. Great track.
Absolutely, and I'll admit, this was my introduction to Nora Jones because I hadn't heard of her prior to this. So hearing this song and hearing how challenging she was to him on this song really, really hit me hard because this is the first time to where he's with the woman on this album, and she's like, "Stop. I see you. You don't have to be anything else but who you are. I see you. I acknowledge you. Take your cool off and let me get to know you. I want to know the
Mm.
real you, not this person you pretend to be, because I see you." And I think, and this song is at the end of the album. So it's like, even though he's gone through all of these things, there's someone there that says, "I see you. Come here and let me love you, but I want to get to know you. So don't be this person that you're out there trying to be or pretending to be. Let me see the real you." And profound. It's profound on this album. So yes, it made me a fan of Nora Jones.
mm.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right, we are coming up on our number 6 overall track. And folks, I'm happy to report that we're not going to be too basic because this is where we are going to hit the biggest hit. Hey, the most total request live friendly track from the album. I had this at number 2 because, I'm on a music podcast, and I just try to admit it when the biggest hit is one of my favorites. So I just decided to admit that to myself here, putting it at number two. At the same time, I imagine some people have heard this song enough times that they feel like maybe they never need to hear it again. But this is, I guess what I'll say is it's just an incredible sort of bop. I love that they didn't know how to classify this on the radio at a time where that was still
Mhm.
controlling a lot of the conversation. It sounds like they even tried to kind of downplay the fact that it was an OutKast song to try to keep people from not playing it. And I love when a band is in that space. This is going to sound like a weird comp to make, uh, but the pop band Maroon Five. The reason I bring them up, this was actually around the same time that they got started. This was before they like made it big as a pop group. Um, I was like painting my grandfather's shed that summer, and I was listening to the local radio station out of Providence, Rhode Island, and they had Maroon 5 like in the radio station, and they were trying to sell them as like an alternative rock group or whatever, and I think they were going to be part of a free concert. And it was just so funny, like within a couple years, they were like this big like pop sensation. So I love it when the radio doesn't quite know what to do with a track. So yeah, but this song's incredible. It's undeniably a bop, and I've never not wanted to hear it when it comes on. How do you guys feel about this one? You were softer on it than I was. So how'd you guys feel? Kelvin, let's go to you first.
I had this way lower, and it's not because it isn't a great song, because it is, but I think in the context of the album, it is it didn't hit as hard for me. Even though it was a pop song, it didn't hit as hard. I get the message behind it, and I get what he was saying in it, but in the space of everything else, I had it a little bit lower,
Mhm.
and I don't I guess that's the biggest point of it. I didn't feel it as much as I felt everything else. Even though it's a pop song and it's a great song, I didn't feel it just as much as anything else.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I had this, what, 6 overall? Something like that.
Yes. Yep.
Um, it's just still so good as a pop song, as a bop, to your point, like, it turn your brain off and just let it work on you. It's a vibe, it's fantastic, and listening to it was almost hard to separate the nostalgia in some ways, because it was so
Absolutely.
familiar to, like, that experience as a kid, but then in other ways, this was like hearing it for the first time, watching the lyrics go by as I was listening and really taking it all in the context of the album and the greater story that's happening.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I really dug this time around and how we're watching this guy, like, he's about to self-destruct this relationship. There's feelings involved, he's about to self-destruct this thing, and then, like, midway through the songs, he goes full shift to ice cold. It's, like, almost exactly midway through, and then
Mhm.
once again, the men get empowered and the women, well, they're just told to shake it. Women are objects again,
Yep.
purely, and they're feeding off of it, and they're going nuts too. We're told that it's all this vibe, but, it's saying so much more than it sounds like it is trying to say, and so interestingly, I was floored to see this little, like, comment Andre 3000 makes in the song. All of a sudden, he says, "Y'all don't wanna hear me, you just wanna
Just wanna
dance."
dance.
Yep.
I had never heard that before in my life listening to this song, and it's like this separate comment from the love story that's been going on. It really is this much more meta comment on himself as an artist, on probably how, to your point, Randy, peop
Yep.
radio stations aren't going to know what to do with this sound, and they don't really wanna think about what it's trying to say. They just wanna dance, and this is gonna make them dance, and that's what they need him and it to be, and he took that moment in the song to all of a sudden say that so clever, to be making us dance, to be absolutely working every trick in the book to make us move our bodies to the
Yep.
music and make
Slick.
sure
It was
he's
really slick.
Yeah.
slick to say that in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it sucks that this is a reality that a hip hop artist has to deal with, but like this was a song that let this album cut through like into every corner of music. I didn't listen to a lot of rap and hip hop. I'm from a predominantly white community. where, well, it was never consciously, intentionally presented to me this way. Like rap and hip hop was like just so othered, as like something that doesn't belong. And this song's ability to just like bridge that gap and just like break down some of those walls, and all of a sudden I'm going back to school downloading every OutKast album. That might be the most important enduring legacy of the song. But I love that Beatlesy music video. And Kris, with you mentioning leaning back into that ice cold persona, it gives me a whole new opinion about like the casket in the music video that's like set up in the middle of the band. Like I've always wondered who's being, laid to rest here. And you've got Andre portraying all these different like fragmented versions. It's a really cool video. And it prompted Polaroid to issue a statement that you should
Yeah, it did.
not shake your Polaroid pictures. It could destroy the image.
So funny. Talk about power, right?
Whew. All right. Uh, by the way, I can't spoil the top 5, but I'm just gonna say Roses is not number 1, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see I'm really happy with what landed at number 1. But first, let's go to number 5, and that is Happy Valentine's Day. I had this at number 6. I had this the highest of everyone. I think there was a little nostalgia factor because they actually play a piece of this song at the beginning of the Roses music video. When they're establishing like the speaker box gang, you can hear a little bit of Cupid Valentino. Um, I think this is just another example of me being a little bit of a basic bitch when it comes to music. I love the movie Amadeus. I think I've cited this scene before, but Mozart goes to see one of Salieri's plays, and Mozart's basically like, that sucked. But everyone's standing up and cheering. And he's kind of pissed because he's like, Salieri sucks. Why is everyone cheering his opera so much harder than mine? Uh, and Salieri basically is like, because these people don't know anything about music. They're stupid. Like I put the right sounds in the right place, and they think they're having a good time, and it makes them want to get up and cheer. So yeah, the beat on this song goes so hard. It's fun, and it made it really high on my list. Kris, how about for you?
Yep, that's exactly what I noted. I said this was the first song to really get me bopping, right? Because the song is conceptual, right? It's
Hmm.
really it's art, a work of art. We've established that, right? And so the first few tracks are interesting, but they're certainly not something that I would call a bop. And I was listening to this on my commute to work, and so yeah, it's fourth track on the album, and all of a sudden you've already had an intro and an interlude. You've had one kind of true track up to this point, Love Hater. Um, and so, yeah, this comes on and I'm starting to vibe and the music's in my body a little bit more. Um, and lo and behold, it would go on to be such a cool, as I said, I think at the beginning of this discussion, kind of thesis statement for the album as a whole, that love is everywhere. It's everything. And love is a part of everything we do. It influences the way we relate to each other. Every day is Valentine's Day. The other holidays might think they're big. Christmas might have its presents, but every day is Valentine's Day because love is ubiquitous.
There's a line in this song, and this is one of the first songs when I first listened to it, I was like, "Okay, he's on to something." And it's the line he says, "You won't believe in me, but you believe in leprechauns and groundhogs." And it's like, because if you think of the context of holidays like St. Patrick's Day, nobody really jumps into it unless you're from that culture, and then it's really big. No one really celebrates Groundhog's Day. Valentine's Day, it's really a once a year thing, but after that, like, there's really nothing. But he's like, every day is the 14th. You could love someone every day, treat them like it's Valentine's Day every single day. And that one line, I was like, dang, that's deep. And that's when I started, in my mind, that's when everything started clicking. It's
Yeah.
like, you can say some pretty profound stuff, and you could say it in a very simple way
Hmm.
and make it make so much sense. But this song on the surface, it's a deep song, but if you dive into what this song actually means, it it's a very deep song that really calls people to
Mm,
action. It really does.
hell yeah.
Also, shout out to Han Solo.
Yes. And I do dig the line, "When arrows don't penetrate, Cupid grabs the pistol." So I love
Yes.
the image of like the gangster Cupid. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. All right. Moving down to our number 4 track. This was my number 3 overall. That was the highest. Behold a Lady. Uh I would love this song even without the "Good day, good sir" lead in, which is just so fun just to see him playing around with the language, doing that little, it's sort of like a riff on like the "Who's on first" sort of like
Yeah,
classic comedy bit.
Abbott and Costello.
Um, but it as silly as it is, it really establishes this like very traditional, like regal sort of version of a lady who deserves your respect that they're trying to evoke within the song. Um, and I really this song does 2 things I really love, and one of them is just, like, those really fun, like, digital sort of, like, beats that are really intense tend to work on me, but I love, like, the syncopation and pacing of the voice, like, the way he delivers the lines. There's some great imagery there. "Today I might snow, tomorrow I'll rain." And then we get these little aside, sort of like spoken word pieces to go alongside it. Maybe they were taken for granted and lost all their magic, these ladies. But yeah, this was one of my favorite songs easily. Yeah, great track. Kelvin, how about for you? You also had this one pretty high.
I did, and it goes back to my earlier memories because whenever I hear the song, like, it takes me back in time to a moment that I will never forget, but the message in this song, it it's really it once again, it's one of those things that hits you, and there's a line in there, he's like, "Your mama's old-fashioned, your daddy don't play," you know? But I see how you are because of how they raised you. I like that. And
Mm,
for him to go in that space too, it's like, okay, I see that. When earlier he was like, you know, I don't want to meet your mama. Just want to make you calmer. I'm
yeah.
just being honest. But now I'm at a space where I am meeting your folks and I'm seeing the makings of you, I'm seeing the roots of you, and I'm starting to appreciate that. So when he says, "Behold a lady," I think it's him finally starting to figure things out. Okay, what I saw earlier, what I broke with earlier, I'm seeing it again. Let's see how this goes out because she's carrying herself phenomenally. I see that. Let's give this a shot.
Beautiful.
You know, it's interesting. I had a slightly different take on this from a story perspective. I think it hit me a little bit differently. And I think the song is fantastic musically. It's great. It's a dope beat. I do think I don't know, there's something of a comment in here because in highlighting this lady, right? He's also questioning like, oh, where are more women like this? So there's this contrast being drawn to maybe the kinds of women he thinks he's usually saddled with encountering in the world. Oh, but this is a proper lady. She's a certain type of woman out in the street. But then he'll also highlight what he expects of her at home, which is different than that thing that he expects her to present in the street, right? So we're coming off of the back half of this character turn in the album, where he's taken that more toxic turn. He's gone back to re-exploring what it means to be ice cold and just like, you know, tear down women. Roses, we're tearing down women. We haven't talked about that yet, but we will. Um, so we get here now. Okay, he's ready to be mature again, he thinks. Maybe he's ready to look for something more stable, more reliable. And so now he wants the lady, a certain type of woman, inherently devaluing then whatever he's saying about other women by contrast. Um, and I think it's just like this expectation that he thinks he has the right to have on how she acts, where she comes from, doesn't seem to have those same expectations for himself. In fact, he highlights how she needs to be better than him. She needs to be able to pick him up, keep him from sinking when he's insecure, when he's inadequate. These are all beautiful things to want from a partner, truly. But I'm not sure this character at this point in the story is willing to give those same things when that person needs it. Like, this is all an expectation of the external.
That's
Yeah,
a very interesting take. I
yeah,
didn't look at it that way. That's a very interesting take.
yeah. I think both of those reads are definitely in there. But like Kris, you're feeding my Gatsby theory over here. Uh,
Right, yeah.
when he sees Daisy Buchanan, like the description was, she was the first nice girl he had ever uh met, and she's not a kind human being. Yeah, there's this certain quality. He expects her to fulfill all these impossible expectations he has for himself. So yeah, great,
A rare
great
breed,
stuff.
Yeah,
indeed.
There you
yeah.
go. All right, we are into the top three, and coming in at number three is a very fun track called "Spread." Kris, you had this the highest at number three, but Kelvin and I were right behind you. So tell me why you love this song.
First of all, just again, some great jazz. It's a genre I love to be taken by. It's clearly a genre he was trying to play with on this album. So that's first and foremost. But then, not unless you want me to, he says. This is the consent song,
Yep.
right? As we're exploring all these different ways in which we relate to each other, the ways we relate to love, a huge component of that is physical. And in music, we express all kinds of genres of music, find ways to be toxic about love and about the desires we have within that, the desires we have from another person and from their bodies. And while that's all great to indulge in its proper time and place, it's also really important that somebody take the time to also say, not unless you want me to. As we're programming young minds and feeding this kind of stuff to young people through just like popcorn consumable music, I was just so glad the song was here, I guess. This was the consent song, and I totally dug it.
Totally. Kelvin, what works for you about this song?
Everything. I
Yeah.
like the pacing. The pacing of this song, is what really hit me initially, especially as a writer, and the way that he wrote this song. And visually, because when I listen to this song, I could see it.
Hmm.
And that's rare. That's a rarity for me. If I can listen to a song and actually see it, like I could see him in a club flirting, being a womanizer, talking to this girl, like, I can't read mine, I can read yours. And, and he's like, I think that you want to pour yourself all over me. What you think? It's like that's a pickup line. It's corny as hell, but I'm club, drinks are flowing. Hey, let's leave this club. Let's go home, and let the night be the night. And just that made me love this song is why I have it so high on my list. But yeah, it's very, very great song. It's really fun, really honest too. And really in the context of this album shows like I'm a dog. Like seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned I've been humming a lot of "She Lives in My Lap," but also just that delivery of "spread" is so musical, and also I'm a sucker for horns, I'm a sucker for some piano. Yeah, very, very cool track. I'm glad it made it so high on our lists. Moving to number 2, this was my number 1, and it was "Roses." Uh, I love this song for a bunch of reasons. Just mainly that opening piano. I mentioned I heard this song over and over again for a Memorial Day weekend back in 2004. I never got sick of it. I went home wanting to listen to more OutKast, wanting to hear these other songs. Downloading some of these other tracks when I got home through whatever means. Um, there's that piano is so magical. Those opening, just like jazzy lines. I think there's a layer of this where I was still like just immature enough to like be able to be like, yeah, to this, this kind of breakup-y, like this blaming of Caroline and the frustration. I'm a big Ben Folds fan, and it got me thinking of the Song for the Dumped. Um, I wish you hadn't let me buy you dinner right before you dumped me on your front porch. Give me my money back, you bitch, is a pretty immature line that I kind of felt as a young, immature. less evolved human being. So it's got some of that energy when you're not hearing the radio edit. I don't love that it ends with so many repetitions of like she's a bitch, crazy bitch. But at some point, it feels like a little bit of overkill. But musically, it's fun. We all know a Caroline, and that whole line. It takes a golden calculator to divide the time it takes to look inside and realize that real guys go for down to Mars girls. So I just love that idea because he's asking her to get real. It's not in the kindest or most mature way, but it does fit with the album thematically. Kelvin, you also have this quite high. Tell me about Roses.
This was my number 3, and yeah, um, for everything that you said. And this was I like the video because listening to the song gave me real Fast Times at Ridgemont High vibes.
Hmm.
And and the video kinda matched that vibe, so I was like, "Yes, they did it." But yeah, it's breaking up with your first love, realizing that she drug you absolutely through the mud, and I just want nothing but bad things to happen to you. And the
Just
reason
playing.
I yeah, exactly, just playing. But another reason that I have this so high is that on this album, it's the only true OutKast song. So,
Mm,
it holds a lot of weight in that regard.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to make sure we said, right? It's got the fantastic Big Boy feature on it, and it's so good. It's so, so good. My wife and I were harmonizing to it earlier, just, like, trading vocal parts and then harmonizing because it comes back so quick because it is such a fantastic just, like, pop song outside of, um, looking too deeply at it, right? So this I think this sat, like, right in my like upper third rankings, but I packaged it right with Hey Ya because they are such a like a narrative pairing. I remember the music video was feeling like a narrative pairing at the time. Um, yeah, he's so bitter from rejection. He's just trying to tear her down, literally wishing death upon her. It's like so over the top.
Yeah, that
Um,
that whole trying to put her makeup on in the mirror.
yeah, it's just like a hyper literal scenario that he walks us through.
He's
So
so angry too.
Yeah,
yeah.
but
And
it.
that's why it's, like, not overly dangerous or problematic because it is so absurd. It's like, this is the emotional expression of a man after an extremely specific moment in time of being,
Yeah.
bitterly rejected.
And we do turn the tables too, because like in the putting the makeup on in the mirror bit, it's like I hope she's on her way to see a baller, or I forget what the other thing is.
Yeah.
But it's like in Hey, he's only interested in Beyonce's and Lucy Lou's, you know? So it's that same sort of play. Also, I had not watched the Roses music video for probably 15 years, and it was so fun to go back and revisit that for a bunch of reasons, but uh, because the remake of Lilo and Stitch just came out, I had totally forgotten that Kevin McDonald of Kids in the Hall fame, or better known as Pleakley in Lilo and Stitch, plays the principal. He's like, "You speaker box guys, get out of here!" And certainly
Nice.
no love belows. Just like the ultimate, like whitest white guy, like nerdy little uh, weirdo. Chris, have I ever told you I played that part in Grease in a drama production?
That's
You
awesome.
have
Sorry,
not, but
not
that's
Grease, West Side Story is what
yeah,
I'm
West
trying to
Side
say.
Story.
Uh,
Tremendous. I am thrilled to know that. I'm really delighted, in fact. So if
yeah.
we were doing the prop cave tonight, would you take the Letterman jacket, the Love Below jacket?
Yeah, although I've got to say that I'm not like a car guy, but that speaker box, like sort of drag racer thing, it's pretty sick.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
no, it,
Yeah,
it would it
yeah.
would it would probably be one of the like really dumb stage props because it was giving me like the Max Fisher players in Rushmore. I love a corny stage prop.
Yeah.
Maybe the car that the stage
That she's
Caroline is driving or
that she's
something.
driving, yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're down to number one. We know what it is, but if you're listening to this and you haven't heard the album for a long time, uh, you might have forgotten about a track that I'm so thrilled made number one on our list, which is Dracula's Wedding. An incredibly fun song. It was our highest ranked as a team. But Kelvin, you were the only one who put it all the way at the top in the
Yes.
number one spot. So tell me why it got there for you.
I'm gonna preface this with the first time I heard this song, I loved it. Absolutely fell in love with it because of what he was saying.
Mm.
He was like, "You're all I ever wanted." Like, and he goes through these scenarios as Dracula. And he's like, "I hang from the ceiling. I scared the crap out of everyone, but here you are. I'm terrified of you. And I waited my whole life to find someone like you. And here you are. And I don't know what to do with it." It's like, I've been a dog chasing cars this whole time. And here's the car. What do I do with it? I'm terrified because guess what? Now I have to live up to the name, and I'm terrified that I don't. I think I'm gonna scare you away. And he's like, and it's like he's in therapy on this song. It's like, hold on, here she comes, which I'm gonna allude to later. And it's like Khalees is the perfect, it's the perfect intro for her. And it's like she's coming and he's like trying to hide and she sees him and then she's like listing off like, "You don't have to run from me. Like, I'm here for you. I will be whatever you need me to be. Plus, I make great peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I can cook." You know what I mean? It's like it's like that whole thing took me, it got me. The first time I heard it, that was the track out of all of these that I was like, "This is the one." I love this song very much. And then I got married. And it absolutely applied. So it's like it's like, oh my goodness. It's like, yes, I got married, I found the woman of my dreams, and on another note, she absolutely terrifies me. Why? Because I'm deathly afraid of losing her. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
It's like, you are the one that came into my life, and you made everything better.
Mm.
Now I'm terrified of losing you, and that's the fear I live with every day, even though, like, I can be this tough, masculine person, and even whatever you are, you can be tough, masculine, very confident outside of that relationship. Like, I could be very macho. I could beat up everybody I want to, but here's this one thing that I'm afraid to lose, and that's what I'm terrified of. I can fear nothing else but losing this one person, and that's Dracula's wedding for me, and that I think that one song has been my adult life and something that I've connected to very much because of the message in that song. And it's like, yeah, you could be this hardcore person, you could have all this money, and I think that's what it represents. You can have everything, but the one thing that keeps you grounded is the one thing that you're afraid to lose, and that's for him, it was her, and
Mhm.
yes, very much yes. That's why it's my number 1.
Woo. Nice.
That was good. That was real good. I like that. Yeah, I mean, I was very similarly I didn't have such a personal relation. I love the way you connected that to, the fear of the loss being the thing that you're really most afraid of when this realness comes into your life.
Yep.
I had noted the same thing that I love the way he was telling the story as though he's Dracula,
Yeah.
right? And it's like a metaphor for the predator he was before out there in the streets, right? He was a predator. He had his game, he had his moves, he's a creature of the night. But
Yeah.
now he's scared. She's real. This is real. This thing between them is real. And she is so very much right here. And he's scared. Um, yeah, so what a great listen. And then just musically, right at the very end there, I love the horns and the guitar and the outro. It's this really brief musical moment,
Yeah.
but lovely.
Yeah, Chris, we've been podcasting together so long that we're finishing each other's peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at this point. Because I had a prompting question here of like, why do you think he went with this vampire metaphor? And you've already answered my question preemptively, perfectly. So thank you. So all I'll add is just this song is incredibly propulsive. It's incredibly fun. I love a weird concept that just like goes for it. Um, you know, Dracula's wedding, Yoshimi battles the pink robots. whatever it may be. I love a silly premise, and then when you land it with just such great musicality, it's great. I love the punniness so much at stake. Oh, bad choice of words. And thank God I did a podcast because over the years, I didn't realize I had never heard the best line properly. The Van Hell sing. I never realized that was what she was saying there until I was reading the lyrics, and I was like,
Yep.
"Oh my god, that's genius. How did I not know?"
Yep, actual genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Van Hell sing. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. So guys, we made it through the main discussion of the full album, if you can believe it. I can hardly believe we made it to the end. That's a big album, but we
Yeah.
did it, I think, quite efficiently, and we pulled out some really incredible themes. Um, I should say about Dracula's Wedding, I hadn't listened to this album beyond Hey Ya and Roses for probably at least a decade.
Mm.
And Kelvin, when you mentioned this to me, I obviously remembered Hey Ya, I remembered Roses, and Dracula's Wedding was the other title that I could sum it up right away. That was it. It was those three.
Yep.
So it's so fitting that made it to number one on the list.
Absolutely.
All right. But we have a couple ending games before we say goodnight.
Yeah, absolutely. In this new season of Media Lit, we're excited to begin awarding some superlatives at the end of the conversation. We've got a couple of custom superlatives just for our music genre episodes. So first and foremost tonight, it's another tough one, um, especially for an album that we just discussed loving. But I think that's the fun of the exercise. So this is our record scratch moment. Unfortunately, the vinyl or the CD that you've been listening to, it's got a deep one in it, and no longer will it play just this one track for you. So this is where we're gonna ask our panelists to choose one song from this album. If you absolutely had to let it go forever and never listen to it again, which song would it be? Kelvin, I'm sorry, I'm gonna put you on the spot, man.
This is
What's
terrible.
what's your record scratch?
Oh, this is so terrible. Oh, no. Wait, hold on. I need a second. Oh, so this is one of the albums I have very few. Damn is another one
Hmm.
that I can listen to this entire album, no skips, and
Yep.
feel the exact
Mm.
same way I did when I first heard it. Ah, this is tough one. That's a tough one. I'm gonna go with the intro though. So out of all of it, even though it sets a really good stage, I can do without it because the rest of this
Hmm.
album, if he just started out with Love Hater, the album's still a great album. So
Hmm.
you don't need the intro. So that may be cheating, but I'm gonna get rid of the intro.
It's not cheating. No way. It's perhaps safe. It's safe, but you love this album, and I think it's
Yeah.
more than fair. I think it
No,
was
it's
a cagey play.
no, it's a smart pick, right? Like it was signaling to you that this album is something different, but now you already know what the album is. You
Yeah.
already love it and you've bought in. So I think that was a wise pick, even.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll
That
give it
was
to you
tough.
for sure.
Oh man, that's tough.
It
That is
hurts
tough.
it hurts the heart.
Hmm.
Uh, Randy, it's up to you next though to do the deed. What's your record scratch?
I can do this pretty efficiently because I think I already made my case earlier in the pod, but it's going to be "Love in War." Again, not as a strike against the song. It's just because I think we need a different message now than we needed in 2003. That doesn't make it a bad song, but if I had to lose one, um, it's going to be that one. If I had to, I'd rather not. But if you're going to force me to lose one, it's
Well
going to be that one.
Well chosen, well chosen. No, I feel very similarly to you guys, right? There wasn't really a song on this album that I didn't enjoy listening to, and I think even the one that I said I wasn't the most pleasant to my ear, She Lives in My Lap, is, I think, an important part of the story that's being told, and to pull it out, would be to harm the greater whole. So I may have been similarly cagey to you, Calvin, and taken the intro if I could have, but I'll leave that alone given that you've made that move. I think if I was going to pull one other Jenga block out safely and not have the tower fall down,
Hmm.
it would be Pink and Blue, because while the song is really interesting, it's a great listen, and it's choosing to explore a really specific type of relationship, and it's exploring it thoughtfully and generously. Um, I don't find that perhaps it fits as cleanly thematically into the arc of a character that I was experiencing over the course of the album. It's a one-off experience this person has had. I think in the last third of the album, Andre 3000 is starting to explore love in just more kind of one-off episodic ways, and this is a specific episode within that range of the album that if I had to pick one, only because you're making me, because somebody has abused my CD, um, it's probably this one, and I don't miss it as much. Like I said, just because it doesn't sit within the tighter arc that I think the character is going through in the first 2/3 of the album.
All right. Well, we've got one more game. After being so very cruel to you, Kelvin, this time we're going to be a little bit nicer. We are going to add a track to what we are calling our eternal playlist. This is the first time we've played this particular mini game. But when we do film and television properties, we have an ongoing bit in which we pick a prop that we would love to take home. This has grown into like a whole like prop cave that we each have, and Kris proposed, why not start to build an eternal playlist where we get to keep one of these tracks forever. We can always hear it whenever we need to. It's going to live on for posterity. And our guests also get to pick. So, Kelvin, if you could only save one track from this album, keep it alive on an eternal playlist for the rest of your life and beyond for posterity, which would it be and why?
Okay, I know you're trying to be nice, but again, this is terrible.
Fair. Fair, fair, fair.
I'm finding this more difficult too. I'm glad you're going first.
You you've waited your
Um,
whole life, make sure you bite the right one.
it would have to be my number one, right? And for all the reasons that I stated, I would keep Dracula's Wedding. And why it's wild that that song is so short,
Mm,
but it hits me so profoundly. So I would add that to my eternal playlist. But on the whole, I don't say this about a lot of albums. This album, there's 2 albums, hip hop genre itself, that I believe people will go back to and say these albums transformed everything. This is one of them. The other one is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers.
mhm.
People don't talk a lot about that album, but it shifted the culture of hip hop. This one was the other one because you could get
Nice.
artistic expression. And I think the songs like Dracula's Wedding is one of them because he's saying
Mhm.
he's being extremely vulnerable on this when he doesn't really have to, right? On this entire album, he's being extremely vulnerable and putting stuff out there they don't necessarily hear people talk about, especially at a time like that in the genre. So that one and Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, I think that the latter, Mr. Morale, is something we're gonna go back to in 10 years and be like, this one absolutely changed everything too.
Nice.
So definitely. But off this album, I'm keeping Dracula's Wedding.
Yeah. Unimpeachable pick. I love that. Kris, what's going on your eternal playlist?
I'm glad you picked Dracula's Wedding. That took it away from me, made this slightly easier, but not by much, only by a degree, because I feel pressured to make it one of the 2 big ones, right? I mean, I want it to be maybe my number 1 because I did find it musically so interesting within the greater whole, but I don't know if separated later on an eternal playlist if it hits the same way. So I don't think it's my favorite things. Feels like it's probably Hey Ya or Roses, but because they're so representative of this time in my life nostalgically, they're the most that I'm most attached to. They're such easy listens. They've got such great energy, but I think they're like less interesting to me musically. Guys, I don't know what to do, as if this is actually a life or death decision. The consequences feel so real. Because I even though I didn't rank like Love Hate or all that high, it feels like maybe the one off of this album that is like representative of what Andre 3000 was out to do here with this exploration of himself and of love and of music on this album. Yeah, I feel like my Eternal playlist is gonna miss having, like, that pure OutKast track on it of Roses, but I'm gonna have to keep this in mind for a later music conversation where I could maybe sneak some more OutKast into the Eternal playlist. For
Hmm.
now, it's gonna be Love Hater.
Nice. And
I'm not mad at that. I'm really not mad at that.
no, and there's so many cool tracks here that I love, but I'm not even gonna try to be cute. If I'm thinking about one Eternal playlist, Hey Ya is one of the all-time just, like, great pop songs, and I can't not pick it. I actually have Roses ahead of it in my rankings. It's, like, a more complete song, but if it's just gonna play on my playlist, I don't wanna wander into a room and just be on, like, that litany of "She's a bitch, 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 crazy bitch," when I walk in on my playlist, as much as I love the song and the rap in there. So yeah, it's Hey Ya, like if an alien species like discovers my eternal playlist sometime after humanity's long gone, they should know that we produced Hey Ya.
Wow, they're gonna think Love Hater is weird. That's for sure. I did the overthinking on this one. Great pick, buddy.
Yeah, great picks all around.
No, that was awesome. I'm so glad that like even though I didn't pick Dracula's Wedding, I was just so thrilled when that was the number one. I was like, this is
Mm.
so cool that was our shared favorite. All right, but we've done it. We did a deep dive into an album. We covered tons of tracks. We covered lots of ground. I've got to thank Kelvin for joining us. This was our first time doing a podcast together, and it was just such a treat. You were such a good guest. So many smart takes. You even
Thank you.
serenaded us with your incredible voice. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us tonight.
Thank you guys for having me. This was a blast. This was an absolute blast. So very much thank you. I love this show. I love the concept. So being on here to talk about one of my favorite albums is this was a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
We've got one last order of business before we can go.
Hmm.
Another new habit here on the pod. We have to, now that we've loved on the album, we've loved on our guest, and thank you, Kelvin. Really, this was a blast. We have to induct an honorary podling. Now, Randy and I had a conversation in the background about this behavior and whether or not every episode, a character or a part of the production in question would qualify for podling status. And the fact is, not everybody will. But in this case, it was easy. We are really proud to induct Andre 3000 himself, three stacks himself, into
Mm-hmm.
uh, the Podling
Yay.
family. He is an honorary Podling for his willingness to be vulnerable, to be introspective, his willingness to break through genre barriers, to tell the story that he needed to tell. We love a character on an arc. We love a great story. And Andre
Yeah.
3000 supplied that in spades here.
To treat
Absolutely.
to treat each genre like great music, if you will.
Hey.
But yeah, well, welcome. Can't wait for you to come on and be a guest for us someday, Andre.
I
All
got my
right.
didgeridoo, you bring your flute, I got a nice ocarina, we'll play. Andre, we'll play, come on by.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's awesome.
Uh, all right, Kris. One kind thing you always do for me is you always let our listeners know how they can get in touch. Why don't you let them know?
Yeah, folks, as you know, we're out here dropping, biweekly episodes on Media Lit across genres, across media types. We're here to explore all kinds of stories, and we want you to be able to keep up. The best way to do that is to follow the podcast wherever you get your pods. That includes YouTube and Spotify and Apple Pods and all of the things. But if you want to engage with us further, and we would love to hear from you, go ahead and search Media Lit or Media Lit Podcast on your favorite search engine, and you'll find us on YouTube, on Instagram, on Blue Sky, Facebook, and Twitter. Message boards are open. We would love to hear from you. And while you're at it, if you want other folks to be able to find the pod too, it's really important that you give us a rating. It's the only way this dang thing works, folks. And so if you've enjoyed what you heard tonight and you want to hear more, make sure you rate the pod and let us know what you thought. Most importantly, don't forget our website. There'll be a link in the episode description for that and across all social medias. And email us at media.slash.lit@gmail.com.
Kris, that's a big job, and I always appreciate every time you walk through it. But can you also take a second to tell us about where else folks can find you, spreading your own vulnerability and joy and wisdom?
Oh, you're very, very kind, sir. Well, you know, I am an actor and a voice actor aside from this podcasting game. I do those things on Instagram for the most part. You can find me there. I'm also a father and a husband. I'm sharing those things at Kris_Ingersoll. That's Kris spelled like Kringle. And I'm also the co-host of another podcast on the Pop Break podcast feed and the popbreak.com. That's the monthly Batman by the Numbers pod with my friend Dan Cohen. We talk all things Dark Knight over there, but this year we're in our year of Superman. We're all very, very excited for James Gunn's entry into that legacy. And so, yeah, it's our world's finest era. Check us out monthly on the Pop Break feed for the Batman by the Numbers pod.
Beautiful. And Kelvin, I'm realizing live in the moment, I asked you all about DFPN, but I never actually asked you to plug any of your social medias or where people could get in touch with you. So I'm sorry for not extending that to you earlier in the pod, but if
It's all good, man.
folks want to find you or the podcast network, where should they go?
Yeah, if you want to find me, I'm on all social media platforms. That's Black Mac, BLAKMAKK, which is an acronym on my rap name. So
Mhm.
you can find me there, or thedfpn.com is where you can find all of DFPN shows, and on Twitter at the DFPN. So hope to hear from you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm your host, Randy Elaine. If you want to find me on the DFPN network, you can find me on the United States Department of Nerds from back in, I don't know, January,
Yep.
talking about Skeleton Crew and Creature Commandos. Had a really great time with Jeff and Bill Bodkin and Amanda Rivas. But yeah, you can also find my entertainment writing over on the popbreak.com, Severance, Andor, Doctor Who, all that stuff. And of course, you can find me on Pod of Doom, a Black Sabbath appreciation podcast. If you go back a little further, you can hear every pod you cast, the podcast I did with the Bancini brothers about the police. And we have not selected our next project yet, but I imagine that'll be coming into focus soon because we are almost done with our portion of the Black Sabbath discography. All right. Thank you all for being here for another episode of Media Lit. We will talk to you soon. Have a great night.
Shake it like a Polaroid picture.